Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Marvel's Disney Plus series, Loki. Season 1, because they confirmed we're getting another one. And I could definitely tell why by the time you get to the end of this first season. But we're not here to talk about future seasons, we're here to talk about this first season. And this is from director Kate Herron, who worked on Sex Education, which I'm a huge fan of, and from writer Michael Waldron, who was a Rick and Morty writer, and now did this, and now will be writing Multiverse of Madness, a new Doctor Strange film, along with Sam Raimi. And this film... Well, here's the thing. This feels like one continuous thread cut into 6 pieces, so, the line between a film and a TV show has blurred so much recently. But anyway, so Loki Season 1 focuses on our 2012 Loki, who in Endgame stole the Tesseract, and he teleports himself away, and he is picked up by the TVA, the Time Variance Authority, which is a bunch of time cops. And I was really hoping we were going to get Key and Peele popping up from Rick and Morty as time cops, but that's not what we got. Instead, we got Owen Wilson. Oh, wow. And Owen Wilson is Mobius and Mobius, who is a particular agent that wants to recruit Loki to help stop other Loki variants. So all these different variants, which the cat's out of the bag at this point. There's so many fun ones. Episode 5 focuses a lot on them, and you get the most amazing, one episode really performance from Richard E. Grant as the classic Loki with the obnoxious green and yellow costume, spandex, and giant horns. You get alligator Loki and a whole bunch of other Loki. But the main variant that they're chasing after is Sylvie, who may or may not be Enchantress from the comics, but honestly at this point it is what it is, and played by Sophia DiMartino. And along with Mobius, we also have Ravonna Renslayer, played by Gugu Mbatha-Raw, who I've seen in quite a few things at this point. I love her in one particular film that I want to give a shout out to, Fast Color. But she's here. There's more to her than meets the eye. Tara Strong as Miss Minutes, who's this little animated clock lady who... There's a lot of characters in this show that there's a lot more to them than meets the eye. And you also have Wunmi Mosaku, who's one of the hunters for the TVA. And more or less, they're the main focus here. And your main focus is Tom Hiddleston as Loki. The Loki we know, along with all these other variant Lokis. And this Loki goes on an interesting journey. There's a lot of very well done emotional moments, whether it's this first episode of him seeing his future. You have him making these emotional connections to himself in Sylvie, who's this female Loki variant, and they have some wonderful moments. Especially episode 5 has some great moments. Not every episode hit as well as others. The 3rd episode felt a lot more like a detour and just an excuse to have them spend some time together for us to build that relationship. But there aren't some inspired moments. There's one giant tracking shot that's really impressive with a big action sequence towards the end of that episode. And here's the thing. The action in this in general isn't the greatest. I'm just going to put that out there. There's one particular fight at the end of the 4th episode, yes, where big reveals happen and kind of shake up the show for the last 2 episodes. And there's a lot of comparisons to a lot of other things. There's a lot of fake comic book characters that Marvel likes to throw out there, like fake Quicksilver. You have fake Mandarin. And maybe there's some fake characters here. But, which, it is what it is. But there's one particular big fight scene that a lot of people are comparing to the throne scene from The Last Jedi, which there's no comparison. The action in The Last Jedi is shot so well, and there's horrible editing in the action in this series, like hand-to-hand combat. Which, here's the thing. I'm not watching Loki for like hand-to-hand combat kinds of things. Loki's more of a character that works with intrigue, but they still try to shove in a bunch of hand-to-hand combat stuff in this show, and it doesn't really work well, especially when the action isn't shot well. So that's not the greatest thing. And also not the hugest fan of probably that third episode. It was fine, I enjoyed it, but it felt like for a 6-episode series, you might have wanted to pack a little bit more of a punch there. But there's a lot of emotional things, and I saw a lot of people complain that his arc is rushed, and they're going from like the guy ripping a guy's eye out in Avengers to this Loki. From what I understand, Marvel confirmed that he was under the control of the Mind Stone in Avengers, and under the influence of Thanos, so like Loki's never really been that evil on his own. So that didn't bother me as much. There's a lot of interesting and bold things that happen in this series. The last episode, I've been seeing some mixed feelings about. I thought it was an incredible setup, and realizing that this is just the first season and setting up probably 3 other movies that are coming after this, really dealing with multiverse kinds of things, it didn't really bother me that the last episode turned into a lot of talking, a lot of exposition, and a very interesting introduction of a particular character that's really going to reshape the MCU moving forward. So, if you're not really into how a lot of these things are becoming super interconnected, then you might not be a huge fan of how the season ends. If you want something that feels like it's completely resolving the story after the finale, you might be left a little wanting. But honestly, I was enthralled by what was going on in this last episode. I was sitting on the edge of my seat just being like, oh, what's going on here? But in general, some of the highlights, like Tom Hiddleston's great, and Sophia Di Martino is great as well. The real MVP here, though, is Owen Wilson. Every time Mobius is on screen, he's amazing, and he has, in the 5th episode, such an amazing connection with Loki, and some great dialogue that it just hit. And this show is crazy. It's ridiculous. And it was all the kind of bold insanity that I'm excited to see in a Marvel show at this point because, Black Widow was a pretty straightforward action thriller kind of thing. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was more that as well. This and WandaVision went there. I felt like this one stuck the landing a lot better than WandaVision. And it didn't need to go into like a big CGI blob fight fest kind of thing at the end. I really enjoyed how this series progressed. I was intrigued around every corner. It kept me on the edge of my seat. There were some real emotional character moments that hit really impactfully. And I'm intrigued to see where the second season goes. And it ends on a great buzz moment. You're just like, what? And I can guarantee you this is exactly why we haven't gotten a Spider-Man trailer yet, because this thing changes things. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see where they go from here. But those are my thoughts on the first season of Loki. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some TV. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.